Welcome back to the Accountants Club podcast. I'm your host, Paul Redmond, and in today's episode, we're going to discuss a crucial aspect of not just growing your advisory services, but growing your accountancy practice. And that's building a team that can support you on the shift from compliance to advisory. And this is something, again, that we have done in our own practice as well. So I know the pains and I know the opportunities and I know the problems because I've been through all of them myself. But I suppose the biggest problem is an overburdened team. And one of the biggest barriers to expanding your services is having a team that's actually understands what you're trying to do on your journey, understands where you're trying to go with advisory services. Actually, the very first people you need to explain the advisory service journey to is your team. Because as you have your team, and especially we're used to deadlines and we're used to deadlines every month and we're used to working under pressure of deadline. And without the right people and processes, moving a team into this advisory service can feel impossible because they're so overwhelmed already with compliance work and you're asking them to now do advisory work. They really don't know where they're moving. They don't know where their head is supposed to be. They don't know what they're supposed to do. So teams are often fully booked with compliance, leaving no time actually just to do the advisory services. And then, there is some specialised skill needed to do the advisory work. And we need to train the team in those skills so that they can properly do the advisory work. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on top of a small house. The foundation isn't there and it's not ready to support the growth that you will achieve. So if you don't have the foundations in place, it's going to always be a problem. And we're looking at the team saying, why don't they get this? They don't do it. But we haven't sat down and spent a bit of time explaining what we're trying to do to those people. And it's not fair on the team because, we all have highly qualified people. We're all dealing with qualified accountants and are more than capable of doing this. We just need to build our confidence and map it out and show them how to do it. So how do you create an advisory focused team? There's a couple of real things. You need to hire and upskill. So you need to hire strategically for individuals. They need to have an entrepreneurial spirit. They need to have an understanding of financial analysis and consulting and basic entrepreneurship and basic business. So that's one of the real things that we look for. So strategically, you need to see people and they need to have the confidence in speaking to other people. And God gave everybody 2 ears and 1 mouth, because we need to listen really hard. So we need to have really good listeners on an advisory team because they need to be able to take information that's given to them a lot of times, assimilate the information, and then advise back to people on the information that they've received. So hiring and upskilling, but also we need to figure out how to upskill our existing team because fundamentally your advisory services really will be given by your internal team. And your internal team are the team that already have relationships built with your clients. So having the relationships there initially, they're in a better place because they have a trust built up with the clients. So the clients like to be dealing with them. So having them doing really simple little things like offering advice and offering, if you do this way, you might be able to improve something. That's advisory services. So building confidence in the team that you have and upskilling your existing team. And the number one thing we need to do is we need to figure out how we can delegate the compliance. Don't overburden the people that you have with more work without taking some work from them. Because they'll see through this. They'll say, you just give me more work. And this delegation of compliance is the number one thing that we're going to have to get used to doing from here on in. And how do we do that? Because we do it with automation and AI. That's the answer. This is not a secret. This is coming at us and it's coming at us at full speed train. Right down the tracks as hard as this train can come. Automation is here and it's here for to stay. And we need to get onto that train and we need to decide where our destination is. We don't want to get onto the slow train, we want to get onto the fast train. So delegation of compliance through automation is the secret sauce to the future of accounting. So in our own practice here, we're focused on training our existing staff to use automation tools. So the reduction of their compliance workload gives them the confidence to take on more advisory. This leads to building a more dynamic and capable team And what's more important is the fact that the team that you have are a team that are trained. Like, to qualify as an accountant in today's world is a really, really difficult thing. It's a hard qualification to get. So by having that qualification, you have a very rounded experience of how the world of business works. So now what we're trying to do in our own team is tap into that skill set. So I suppose from the delegation perspective, as I said, that's the most important. So the next thing we want to discuss is how do we set up the processes for advisory? Once you've educated your team and your team is ready, setting up efficient processes is the key to making advisory work seamlessly. So if you're doing cash flow forecasting, you're not doing it on Excel. You're doing it on a really good product that's out there, like, Futurely, Sift, any of these products. There's loads of them out there, but there's some really, really good products that will do the heavy lifting, and you're going to be in the back end of this doing the conversations. So encouraging your team is the next thing. So we need to encourage team collaboration. So you bring the people together into a room. So you're not only having your own team members there, you have your clients' team members there. And it's the art of conversation and listening is the way to build these services. The journey of a business, and I don't think I've missed a podcast yet that I'll say this. There's 4 stages: startup, grow, scale, and harvest. That journey is the same every single time. And also, as you cross the bridge from one to the others we've talked about, that's where the problems arise. So our advisory service will be always in the bridge. They'll be always in that bridge from startup to grow or from growth to scale. And, it's repetitive. Advisory services is more repetitive than compliance. What we have to be is aware of the problems and aware ahead of time with the clients in terms of what they are. How do we set up processes to do that, to enable that? One of the biggest things we can use is templates and checklists. So setting up templates and checklists for things that are happening on a regular basis within a business is so powerful. Because if you've identified a problem that somebody has when they're going from startup to grow, you know what that problem is coming up. You're setting up the checklist, you're setting up watchtowers, you're setting up information there just to say, well, if this happens, then it's more than likely this is going to happen. And then if this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And then that's going to happen. If this, then that. We've talked about that consistently. That was always the way, if this, then that. So if this, then that means that if we're looking ahead of the game and we're using checklists and templates for that, then we're capturing it the way we need to capture it to go back to the client to use it. The other thing is, and I've said it a few minutes ago, is encourage team collaboration, because what really comes out if you have a group of people sitting around a table. So for instance, we would have a tax advisor, a financial planner, a wealth planner, corporate finance, accountants, bookkeepers, all of those people sitting in a room with a client. It's like, think of that team as an orchestra, and you're guiding the orchestra, or you're the guy that's at the front. And each player then needs to know their role and how they fit into the piece of the jigsaw puzzle. Now, having that jigsaw puzzle together and putting it together, when you see the finished product in that, it is spectacular. And the client has this power that they know that they can go out and tackle any issue that comes down their case, because we have got so many people around me in my corner to help me on the journey ahead, and it knows the problems I'm going to see down the line. So they're planning for the problems today. So that's really the whole idea of the process of setting up advisory. So what's the action steps ahead of you now to grow your advisory focused team? So really, it's assess the current skills that you have within the team. That's really important. That's the number one thing. Go down to your team and see the skills they have and talk to them and see, do they like to do this? Do they want to be involved in this work? The second thing is to delegate the compliance. As we've talked about, you delegate the compliance through automation. That's going to free up time. And then it's build the processes. That's the 3-step approach. Assess the current team, delegate compliance, and build the processes. So I suppose if I was to give you a final thought on all of this, a successful advisory practice requires capable and motivated people. Invest in your people, build process, and that'll help you support the growth. And that'll help you keep the team of people together. Thank you so much. I will talk to you on the next episode.